Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Ran. In this channel, I share knowledge and practical techniques on trauma healing and everything about mental health. Today I wanted to talk about 5 typical behavior triggers for fear of abandonment, or you can call it abandonment anxiety. Because during my healing from codependency and love addiction, I've discovered that it's essential to know the mechanism behind everything, to know what triggers you and what core belief that you have leads to your physical reactions like anxiety and also like this uncomfortable sensations, which we typically try to run away from. But it's essential to know what's causing this so that we can be mentally prepared for that and be able to release the shame attached to that triggered emotion so that we can offer ourselves more compassion and more willingness and motivation towards healing and change. All right, let's get started. The first trigger is unpredictability and uncontrollability. This is the one that I personally relate to so much, and it's incredibly painful. For example, you had a wonderful evening with this guy, and then you agreed to go on the next date, but you haven't officially set on what date, like what time you're going to meet up. So after this date, probably the second day, you start to become pretty anxious and preoccupied because you kept wondering, well, if they're gonna call and set a date. Because of this unpredictability, because of this inconsistency in actions, you get like crazily painful because you feel like, well, I'm gonna lose this connection. He's not in love with me. He doesn't want to meet me. And say that even if you set a date on like this coming Friday, right? So if on Wednesday or Thursday you haven't heard from him to confirm again on specific time that you're going to meet up or specific location or restaurant that you're going to meet up, you would do the same thing. Like you would panic. You feel like this person's going to blow you off, and you feel like, well, this person doesn't want to see me. They're running away. And did I do something to scare them away? And you become crazily insecure and paranoid about why this person hasn't called to confirm this Friday date. Because of this, when I was going through my recovery, whenever I have dates in between, I would book extra sessions with my therapist because I couldn't handle the waiting time from Monday to Thursday, because I couldn't be by myself without thinking that, well, is this person ever gonna call me? If this person's ever going to want to see me, well, they are not in love with me, they wanted to escape. Well, did I do something? Did I become too needy to scare them off? Did I do something to break this connection? Well, they don't like me, they don't want me. And that's incredibly exhausting and painful, because for love addicts, for codependent, for people like us who have suffered from developmental trauma, who have not get sufficient care and attention from our caregivers, even if they are physically there, but their guarantee is inconsistent, it's uncontrollable. It's like, well, I know right now you're back and you're by my side, you're taking care of my needs as a child, but I don't know when you're gonna leave. I don't know if you're ever gonna come back. I don't know what scary things are gonna happen. And the future is so unknown to me. So for a child, for a kid, we equate inconsistency equals not being able to survive. It happens in relationships because in relationships, we are developing this intimacy of relating to another human being, which is modeled based on the primary relationship we have with our parents. That's why inconsistent reassurance and unpredictability are gonna swirl us into a storm, like inner storm, like we feel like we just cannot control this anxiety to this unbearable level. And the second trigger is change in behavior. Whenever we experience this perceived distancing, not necessarily like real distancing, but perceived distancing or change in behavior. It does not necessarily have to be someone that you're in intimate relationship with, even a coworker. I have a coworker who is really close to me. She greets me like every day when I get to work, and she would invite me for a walk at 4-ish p.m. every day. And this becomes a pattern for us because I feel like we're really bonding very well. Maybe someday she doesn't get to greet me when I get to work. She is probably preoccupied with work or just her personal matters. But I would perceive this changing behavior as a sign that she doesn't want to be friend with me anymore. She doesn't love me anymore. She doesn't want to be close to me anymore. And there's one time I invited her to take a walk, and she told me like, well, I have a meeting, I cannot go with you. I took it pretty personally because I feel like I'm gonna lose the only friend I had at work. And I actually cried a lot of times during my therapy sessions because I feel like I don't get to keep anyone in my life, even if it's just a friend or a coworker. For people like us, we're super sensitive towards the degree we are relating to other people, like the frequency, like how many sentences we talked, who finished talking last. And we kind of just keep a notebook on, well, how many times I initiate this talk and how many times you text me. Even if it's a tiny little bit change, we would start to suspect that we're getting abandoned because this person is changing and it's uncontrollable to us. The third trigger is delayed response or no response. I think this is the one that's pretty self-explanatory because when we get no response, we feel like this person doesn't want us. We feel like it's about us. I actually made a video specifically on this topic about no reply anxiety. I'm gonna put it somewhere here so that maybe later you can check it out to get more in-depth information about this specific trigger. Personally, this is a very painful trigger for me because every single time, no matter it's like family members, coworkers, friends, or romantic partners, whenever I don't get a response, I get super panicking and I was ready to like sulk and attack them like verbally because I couldn't deal with the fact that you're changing, like you're leaving me. Because on my mind, it's always like devastating. It's like disastrous degree. You always see it as a sign, like someone stopped liking you, and this could potentially mean the end of a relationship, and which triggers our survival anxiety carried over from childhood because we resent this person, we resent our caregivers for not being consistent, for not providing enough assurance. We feel like, well, now you're back, of course, but now you're gonna leave again. So we are just kind of this helpless little child. We become angry that you don't see our pain. We become like really disappointed that this might lead to end of relationship with our parents. And the fourth trigger is rejection and criticism. They are the worst nightmare of codependents and love addicts because our identity completely depends on the other person. If they approve us of being good, if they approve us, they're happy with us, it means we're valuable. But if they show that they're unsatisfied with us, we are devastated because it's like our survival is linked to their approval subconsciously. In dysfunctional homes where we don't get enough nurture and validation and care and approval as being a validated child, we would try to seek external approval all our lives because that's the only way we can survive. The only way we can survive is to keep them happy, is to change who we are, to abandon our whole identity, to cater for them so that they wouldn't abandon us. When we're receiving criticism and rejection from other people, we are so scared because it means that we're going to be abandoned. It means that we're not behaving very well. We're not okay. We have to change. We have to cater for this person. When they're happy, it means that we're okay in our identity. When they're not happy, it must mean that I did something wrong. I need to change to survive. So this is the worst nightmare. And the fifth one is hostile attitude. I wanted to separate this from the fourth one, even though they cross paths a little bit. But I think this one refers to more like this person's personality, like personality traits are kind of hostile. They are sarcastic, they like to complain, and they seem very judgy, even though it has nothing to do with us, even though it's not directed against us. But this person's personality could potentially trigger our abandonment anxiety if they resemble our parents somehow, especially those parents who are abusive. I'm speaking to this from a personal experience that I had a father who was extremely abusive when I was a child. That's why I cut ties with him when I was 14 years old, because if I didn't, I felt like he could have destroyed me like he did to my mom. So I never regretted for a single minute in my life. But people like this, abusive people, their personality-wise, I mean, they are narcissistic, they are selfish, they are cold, they are judging, and they just take pleasures for abusing people because their self-esteem is so low that they have to take hostage of people so that they can feel a power of control. But this kind of person really triggers my fear of abandonment because those people, they cannot be there for themselves. They don't love themselves. So how could we expect them to love us? So of course, their inconsistent presence, their inconsistent caring and nurturing, maybe not at all, but it's a sign of abandonment to us. So whenever we meet this kind of people, we always assume that they would do the same thing like our parents did to us. We would assume that we are putting ourselves in this trapped situation that we have no hope, like no hope of escaping, no hope of surviving this circumstance. That's why this kind of situation is the scariest to us. And we just automatically feel trapped and hopeless and helpless, like when we're a child again. In order to heal, we have to be first aware of the patterns in our lives and the situations that trigger our fear of abandonment, because then we would be mentally prepared. We would feel less panicking when we're experiencing these triggers. We would calmly maybe sit down and maybe write about it, maybe reflect on the experience we had that caused us to feel this way. And those current situations, those triggers would lose power over us because they cannot control us. And we are adults now. We are mature adults who are able to take care of ourselves, who are able to untrap ourselves, not like when we're children anymore. Alright everyone, I hope this video is helpful. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up. If you wanted to see more videos like this, please subscribe, and I will see you next time.